Tonight's broadcast is sponsored by Pleiadian Knowledge by EMR Fluid.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mark Fluid radio broadcast. Tonight, we're going to go a little bit in depth in something that every single person really, well, most realize it. Most people are awake to the fact that the Federal Reserve banking system is at the top of the problem, okay? The world leaders, the hierarchy structure, reptilians, everything, but I'm gonna go a little bit farther, and I'm gonna really rip your security blanket off. Mostly into religion. Instead of understanding that you're a part of that consciousness or that God force or that creation force that you're a part of, you're letting yourself be controlled. Okay? In my book Pleiadian Knowledge, I quoted one thing and I wrote this. And if you have anything to say about it, you can hear it, but you can hear the logic. In order to control a population, you must be able to control the monetary, political, social, and media, as well as the religious outlets, in order to effectively bring in one truth of the controller's perception of reality, so it's not to be questioned. Yes, this hierarchy and this pyramid you're going to see is not just in the government and the shadow government. It is not just in the social and the media, which is your garbage spewing corporate media that gives you a bunch of propaganda. It's also in the religious outlets. Instead of you trying to be free and spontaneous in love of what the creation really is, it's controlling you and putting you out there. And we're going to show you the symbols and ritualistic as far as we can into it before we run out of time. For the foremost for church, for any church, Catholic, Baptist, I don't care what it is. There's only 4 groups that go to church. The first 2, there's no really harm to society. They're not bad people. They're not weak-minded. They're just there. This first group is already spiritual. They're already awake. They know that their consciousness connection, it's like the female energy is flowing. Spontaneous love and the connection to everything in the universe. They just go to be with family, with friends, enjoy fellowship with each other, coffee, donuts probably, but they like to be with that fellowship with friends and family. No harm, no foul, not weak-minded. Second group that goes, they see something's wrong in society. I call these the seekers. They're seeking guidance. And they know there's something wrong in society. They're looking for answers, so they go to church, any church, to try and get some spiritual enlightenment. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. The third group, I call the seesaw, the teeter-totter. These are the devout. These are the weak-minded individuals that can be led in one direction or another. Okay, and these are the devout people that believe everything they read, everything, and they follow the pastor, where I can quote right against them. If you read the Bible, there is a little text abstract that specifically says, "Put not your trust in earthly men in whom there is no salvation." That priest or pastor is an earthly man. Do not put your trust in him. However, they're devout, fine. Alone by themselves, they're not a problem. Yeah, they're weak-minded, but they're not really a problem. It's the fourth group that go to any church that actually causes the problem. This fourth group is a group of individuals that go to church for one specific reason: to compare clothing and to be seen there so they can be pillars of the community and rise up in a position of authority to control their agenda. The group 4 is really able to put the group 3 into meaning mass. In other words, you can pinpoint the Christians, the weak-minded ones, against the Muslims, not realizing we're all one race, the human race, but this group 4 is the actual danger of any religion. That's why it's bad. But the reason why I say I'm the security blanket is because a majority of people that I know are Catholic. And within the last few years, months, weeks, the Catholic Church has been animate in saying that there are aliens out there and that we should accept them because they're our brothers in Christ, because the Catholic religion is ritualistic, just like the Cabals. Okay, everything is a ritual in the Catholic religion. From the wine that they use as the blood of Christ, from the communion to the process, everything of that Mass is ritualistic. Same thing as the Cabals. This is the same format. In actuality, no matter what part of those three, whether it be government, religious, or media, you're under the same control grid, the same masters. All you're doing is picking a branch. Okay? So let's go into this a little deeper. And I'm getting myself in a pattern because with the way days go, I kind of get busy where I say I'm going to post a link, and I get busy and I forget. So I'm starting to get a process here where I'm going to broadcast and copy and paste everything what I typed at the end of the broadcast, so it's automatically there, so I don't have to worry about it. But at the end of this broadcast, you're going to have the links where you can go to yourself. But let's go back to the Mayan calendar, 2020. Everybody was sitting there saying it's the end of the world. See, nothing happened, and they all had their big old garbage spewing crap, but actually something did happen that the Mayans were trying to tell you. It wasn't the end of the world, like idiots would think. It was the end of the world as you know it. And it is. Ever since 2012, there has been a magnificent raise in consciousness. You can go down to Laguna Beach, California, and you can see this consciousness for yourself. Okay? You can see this consciousness for yourself. People meditating. People waking up at masses to the government's deception. I mean, you've had revolutions before, but not to the point of this. This is coming to fact where it's a worldwide wake-up. Despite what you hear and some other information I'm going to give you, they're losing because that's what they were trying to tell you. The Mayans were trying to tell you the precession of the equinox. Everything happens like a cycle, okay? If you want proof of that, all you have to look on this planet right in front of you. We have, in geology, it is called a rock cycle. It never changes. It does the same thing 4.6 billion years ago. It's doing the same thing now. They're trying to tell you the cycles, which means this was going to be the end of the world as you know it and a new beginning. Okay? That's what they were trying to tell you. Now, the Catholics, which is part of this, is because this is ritualistic. And I've got the link where you can get it. But there was one Catholic priest that actually destroyed the entire Mayan written language. Okay? The decipherment of the Mayan hieroglyphs was one of the greatest stories of the 20th century, and it was the best scientific discovery. Tragically, this decipherment was only necessary because of a one-man Spanish Inquisition. A deliberate act to destroy the entire Mayan language and culture. Okay? This was a single Catholic priest that had the same intolerance, and that intolerant idea that evolved in a Jewish religion. And this was a few centuries before Yahshua, or what you call Jesus, was even born or even taken up. And the Christians started taking this up with a vengeance. Because anything that goes against the grain of control and puts the ball in your court, well, you actually have the power for yourself. It takes away the control factor. Okay? I've already left the link on there so you can actually go read this. But this is a constant cycle because you have to have the religious control in order to get the same pyramid effect. Because if you look at the reptilian hierarchy, you even had religious leaders to control the religion. And we can go into King James too. We'll get some sooner in a minute. But as you can see, with a one-man campaign, that's the best way I can call it, one-man Catholic campaign, to go over there and to destroy knowledge that could better mankind, because it goes against the control factor, is the same thing the government does. They hide classified information. It is the same triangle, the same pillar, the same branch. You can almost see it in the religions where you go. Okay? Like I said, God, creation force, your soul is connected to it. It comes from pure love, not ceremony or ritual. Before we go any farther, if you cut back to where Alex Jones infiltrated the Bohemian Grove, it showed you the ritualistics, the ceremonies. That was just the tip of the iceberg. That was just giving you a little bit. Has anybody gone into the Kamal? Maybe watched the Shapeshifters? Or the blood rituals? No, Alex Jones wouldn't come out. Because plus, trust me, he had a plan. He had to say, okay, how do I get out of here? He had a way out. That's an intelligent person thinking. But it's all a triangle. And it's all an illusion that is being ripped away from him. And that's because of the rise of consciousness. Okay? So let's delve in this a little further. I'm feeling fun to this. Okay? I think most people remember in their history classes when they were talking about the Spanish Inquisition. Okay? And this happened in 1478. It was from Catholic monarchs. Again, here we go again with Ferdinand II. And Isabel I of the Castile. Wow, we got England here to help that Orthodox here. Okay? They wanted to preserve this in their kingdom. And basically it's replacing the medieval Inquisition, which was under papal control, and it became, I guess you could say, it became the most substantive of the three different manifestations. Christian Inquisition, along with the Roman Inquisition and the Portuguese Inquisition. Okay, the Inquisition was really intended in part, I think, to ensure the orthodox of those who converted from Judaism and Islam. They were trying to make sure they convert to theirs, because a one-world control needs a one-world religion. Well, they still failed, because we've got plenty, including some ridiculous ones. Need I mention Scientology? But they also have, I think, called the human ones, because these people will argue to death. And I don't think there's anybody better out there to tell you that the people that argue the best are the Baptists. So it all failed, it all spread out, because I think, and there might be more, but I think, if memory serves, we got Catholics now, Episcopals, Protestants, Mormons, Born-agains, Church of Latter-day Saints, Baptists, Evangelists, the list can go on. So it didn't work at all. They came to the point where it's like, well, whatever, whichever one, as long as they stay in the same. Because if you look at the entire, what's called a document, where these people have tax write-offs, they don't have to pay taxes. And it says, what's defined as a church, so you're tax exempt. So it keeps the churches in the exact same structure. Okay? The guidelines of what the controlling people want. They want these churches to remain control fascists for them. Regardless of what you call yourself, you're still the same. Okay? Because you can look up to that, and I'm going to put the link so you can read that. But there's one where it gives you King James II. So King James wasn't